right, we are back with another Ramp Careers Daily Update. Today, I am joined by both co-founders, Mitch and Manoj. Guys, how you doing?
Doing well, Danny.
Doing good.
Nice. In sync today. I like it. So yesterday we spoke about a big win, Mitch's big win on one of his deals. Today we want to flip the script a little bit and talk about a big loss, how it played out, what we can learn from it, and some key takeaways. And you actually had the opportunity to both partner up on this. It's epic fail. So I will kick it to both of you. Give me the setup, guys. How did this one play out?
Yeah, Danny, this one stung me for a long time for two reasons. One, because we had hyped this deal up so much. We brought it up on multiple internal meetings. I'm pretty sure we had this logo slapped in as a key account in the pipeline. It was sent to a bunch of investors too. So this one really hurt. Yeah, and coincidentally, this was something that I kind of tag team with Mitch. And in hindsight, I guess I should not have. Not sure. I'm just kidding. I don't think it was his fault by measure. But long story short, this was during our very early days at YayPay, and we had done our basic prospecting, cold emails. I don't even think we cold called for this account. We got a response just from an email campaign. This was a $70+ billion company. This was probably the largest company that we had targeted, and we got a response right away. And we were so pleased that happened that we were like, we're going to just go ahead and try to do whatever we can to sell this account. Because in the back of our minds, we were like, this contract value could be huge. Let's not even worry about our existing product features. Let's just say yes to whatever they say and we'll figure it out. It was that big an account. And again, we were in our early stages, so we're still experimenting a little bit. I know that a part of what we kind of do today, while we speak with our fellows and we share our experiences with them, and also as part of our curriculum and programming, we focus quite a bit on qualification. And I think that we collectively agree that that is probably the most important thing in terms of the sales cycle. It's the right thing to do. It's the most respectful you can be of your time, your prospect's time, and you just need to get it done. And I don't think that we did anything under the band framework or any framework. We did zero qualification. Mitch, question to you is, we didn't qualify them, but it felt good, man, for about a month. Like, we took multiple calls with them, demoed the product multiple times. They all showed up, these damn calls. I wonder, like, where did we mess up specifically? Because typically when you don't qualify, things kind of fizzle out, but this one kind of dragged along for a little bit. Where do you think we dropped the ball? And I guess the second question is, what was the reason we felt good, even though there was absolutely no fit?
Great questions, Manoj. So look, I think, you nailed it on the head, right? We didn't qualify. We saw the logo on the page, and we saw dollar signs in our eyes, and we were just going to have as many conversations as it took to close the deal. We made so many rookie sales mistakes, it's not even funny. One of which you brought up, which is blabbing about this deal to every leader and investor we could to make ourselves and the company look good, where any veteran salesperson knows, right? It's best to keep some of those under wraps until you've got the paperwork in hand, because that just adds extra pressure that's unneeded in the sales cycle. Specifically with the deal, I think it went wrong early on qualifying on a couple of things. So things like authority, things like timeline, which are key qualification metrics. Make sure who you're talking to can get you in front of the right people to move the deal along, and can they do that in a timely manner that's appropriate for both parties, right? We definitely didn't qualify there. Budget, I think the size of the company, they would have had the budget, but there was no screaming pain. There's no screaming need. Now, we were working with somebody who we thought was interested, and maybe he was interested in the product, but he was interested in having conversation, which you'll see a lot of times at these big companies. People are out there and maybe they get bored. Maybe they are actually genuinely interested to see what kind of technology you have and see how it works. But it doesn't mean they have any intention in buying or that they can make any buying decision. So I think that's what we were doing, right? We were having these demos week after week, having these conversations week after week, doing these check-in calls. I think, probably after month 3, it was, oh yeah, check in next month. We'll be ready to go. Yeah. Check in next week. We'll be ready to go. And all along, we just had those happy ears on, kind of had the blinders on, that we were just, hey, maybe there's something here, holding on to hope that there was something there.
I'm a qualification junkie, so it's my favorite and I believe the most important part of the sales funnel. So when you're in that qualification portion, it's critically important that you rigorously apply your qualification framework over and over and over again. I'm curious to know, because YayPay was so young there, do you think that you just didn't do qualification, or did you not have a qualification framework in place that allowed you to see what was actually sales qualified versus what was hopefully sales qualified?
I mean, I don't remember there being much of a framework in the early days. I think we conceptually knew that we should qualify and there should be frameworks, but we weren't holding ourselves to the standard. I mean, Manoj, correct me if I'm wrong, but like every deal that came through, we were running at, because we were so early and we had to show growth. And startups run into this trap all the time where
Yeah.
They're going to run at anything that moves and talks to them and breathes. When in actuality, it's hard to do, but you'd be better off cutting those conversations that aren't going anywhere,
Yeah.
focusing your efforts on real prospects.
Yeah, and in the very early days, I don't think that we had a formal qualification standard. However, I think we had a baseline notion of at least some of the determinants. I think we had some idea who a decision maker would be.
Yep.
Timing, just because of our own eagerness, more so than anything else. I know that we were slapping on contracts left, right, and center, whether there was a real urgency or not. We just wanted to gauge whether these folks were interested. We got better at it over time, but I think
we were using proposals as qualification criteria. If they sign, they're qualified.
And it's one of the things that I teach, and it was, well, first, one of the things I see most often as a early, call it rookie mistake in an early sales process, is this lack of qualification leading to hope in the opportunity pipeline or the formal sales pipeline. That's something that I can't stand as a sales leader or a founder, is when there's hope in the pipeline. I want it to be objective truth in the pipeline. I want to know this deal, it says 10% to close. That means it's 10% to close. It doesn't mean more. It doesn't mean less. This deal, the next deal is 50% to close. That straight up means, right? 50% of this deal has a 50% chance to close. Then you can accurately predict when the deal is set to close, how much it's worth, how much the expected value of the pipeline is worth. I think that's critically important, and a mistake that frequently tons of startups make early on, even later on. So, to no real fault. I'm glad that you got to learn from this. Talk to me about what happened as this deal, in quotes, progressed, right? Like what ended up happening as you thought the deal was about to close, but really you realizing, coming to know that the deal was pretty far from the finish line?
Well, I mean, we were so scared about offending them or putting a wrench in the deal that I don't remember asking them a very basic question. When do you anticipate getting this whole thing wrapped up? Like, we were terrified about asking this question because we were like, well, let's not put any pressure on them. That logo was so big, and we just saw a contract with a lot of zeros at the end of it, that we didn't ask them that question. I think when we knew things went cold was we had great conversations. I remember, Mitch, I'm not sure if you remember this, but we had this bizarre conversation about how we were going to all celebrate with like Ferraris or something. This just stuck to me for some reason. I don't know if you remember this, but it went from there, right, where we were shooting the breeze, pretending like this thing was going to go through. These guys were saying, well, we're going to sign this contract, we're going to go to a ball game, we're going to go, rent these sports cars and have a lot of fun. That's where we left it off, and then they just went cold. Like, they just completely ghosted us. This was after multiple calls, multiple demos, conversations like shooting the breeze like this, and then they just went cold. We'd email them, we'd call them, we'd check in with them, and we never got a response from them again. And I think that's when we realized it looks like this just wasn't a fit to begin with. They may be well-intentioned. I don't know in hindsight whether the people that we were talking to had real authority in signing up for something like this. I don't know if there was a urgency in terms of time. I think they had a bit of a need, definitely not in the magnitude that we expected. Or, I mean, I'm open to the idea that we didn't do a good enough job at identifying their pain points and selling. Like, I don't know the answer to that question. My hypothesis is we didn't qualify, but could make the argument and say, maybe we were rookie salespeople. This was an enterprise contract. Mitch, with what you know today, a company that size, is that how deals get done? Two people just shooting the breeze? Not really, right? I mean, there probably were multiple stakeholders. There were folks in IT. We had no clue who they were. And so I think some of this could be a qualification issue. Some of it could very well be, and I don't know the answer to the question, might be the case. Maybe we just didn't do a good enough job identifying who all the parties are and selling it to them the right way. But long story short, I think the lesson learned is, as tempting as it is to be attracted to big logos, as tempting as it is to have the opportunity to sell to a very large customer at a very big contract value, I don't think any of that should influence you following a sales process if you had one. I think that you should not compromise your sales process, especially if there's been some thought put into the development of it and you have a history of applying it consistently. I'm not really sure whether deviating from it is necessarily a good idea.
Yep, 100%. I'll agree and echo all that. At the end of the day, I think that regardless of our salesmanship, if we would have simply qualified alone on timelines, we would have saved ourselves and the prospect, so much time in chasing this one down, right? So if we'd just done that at the beginning, regardless of the rest, we would have probably realized really quickly that there's not a deal here.
Those are good learnings, and we can take a lot away from this conversation. I think to wrap a little bit, one, qualification is intensely important in a sales process. Two, establishing even a basic qualification framework is critically important, even at an early stage of your company. And three, once you've realized that potentially a deal is unqualified, it's time to cut bait and save yourself the frustration and consternation weeks and maybe even months down the line.
You summed that up pretty well. That is the moral of the story. On the bright side, I think that they had a good experience with us. I don't know if that would necessarily preclude them from saying, we're never going to work with these guys again. I mean, people ghost for various reasons. Maybe they felt bad. I mean, who knows? But I do believe, and I hope that this is the case, they're open to being sold the right way in the future.
I'm sure you gentlemen were very respectful and gracious, even in rejection. All right.
Well, we had no choice, Danny. They wouldn't respond to our emails. So. You've been there.
Of course. There is always another option, which is blowing up their email or blowing up their phone, but that's not a great one. That's not a good look. Well, we're digressing a little bit, but we should wrap there. For Mitch and Manoj, this is Danny with another Ramp Careers Daily Update. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.